Before the UK Open expanded to feature 160 players in 2019, the event featured 128 players. When hearing the number 128, you'd probably just assume it was the 128 tour card holders, but remember, the UK Open features amateur qualifiers. Therefore, before 2019, and unlike today, tour card holders were not guaranteed a spot at Minehead. Instead, players had to qualify for the UK Open Order of Merit, where players earn money by playing in special UK Open qualifier events. These events were open to all tour card holders and PDPA associate members who had attended Q School but missed out on getting a card. Since 2014, there were 6 of these held per year, and in the latter years of the system, the top 96 players on the table would qualify. The top 32 would get straight through to the last 64, and the next 64 would enter at the last 96 stage. These qualifying events were used for the last time in 2018. Van Gogh won the first 2, with the second being his 100th singles PDC title win. Smith won the third and Anderson won the fourth, before Corey Cadby took his first PDC title in the 5th. What happened at the 6th event is what we're going to look at today. With only one event left, the race for the lower positions was very close, with 20 players on £750 and 15 on £500. Therefore, it would likely come down to the tiebreakers at the end of the day. The PDC rules stated that players tied would be ranked based on how much money they'd won in the past 4 events. If there was still a tie, it would go to 5, and if it was still tied, the higher ranked player on the main order of merit would be higher. Crucially, the rules stated that if this could not separate the players, a playoff would be organised between the affected players. On the final day, Krzysztof Ratajski won his first PDC title, becoming the first Polish player to win one. By the time the last 32 finished, it became clear that something crazy was happening. There were 23 players on £750. Benito van der Pas, Mick McGowan, Darren Johnson, John Pott and Prakash Jiwa all had this amount, but had qualified as they'd won enough over the 4 or 5 events or were higher ranked on the main order of merit. The interesting bit came in the group of players just behind this slot, as there were 12 players tied for 95th place. This meant that a tiebreaker had to be played to allow 2 of these 12 players to occupy 95th and 96th. There was another important tie further up the table, with Ted Everts and Michael Rastovitz both on £1,500 and in 64th place. They were both well within the qualifying spots, but the tie mattered, as the player ranked 64th would go straight through to the second round, whilst player 65 would enter at the first stage. The tie for 64th was pretty easy to sort out, and a single game between Everts and Rastovitz was played to decide who would start in the second round. Rastovitz won the first leg, but Ted then won 6 in a row to secure 64th place. Before that game, Ted had already won a direct playoff for a spot against Brett Claydon. The game between Everts and Rastovitz was important because of the prize money ramifications, but they both already had a spot. There was more drama in the fight for the final 2 spots, as 10 players would miss out despite being tied on money on the order of merit ranking. When the draw was released for this playoff, only 7 of the 12 players were in it. Nicholas Bell, Brett Claydon, Robert Marjanovic, Stefan Knowles and Luke Woodhouse all weren't there. It was expected for Marjanovic, as he had not played in the main tournament that day. He tweeted saying that he couldn't play in the last 2 qualifiers due to work commitments. However, the absence was unexpected from the others. It was confirmed that they had gone home early after exiting the main qualifier. Fans felt that the players hadn't fully been informed about the playoff situation and were angry at the PDC. Barry Hearn responded by saying that an announcement had been made during the day about the situation. He also called it unbelievable that the players who knew they were in the mix left without asking the tournament director what was going on. Goh and Price responded, backing up the fact that there was an announcement before play began. This was backed up by others who had attended the event. Luke Woodhouse tweeted saying that he hadn't heard the announcement and that he hadn't received any phone calls or been given any paperwork. By the time the qualifier was underway, he was on the way home and 2 hours away from the venue. He stated that he felt his fair chance had been taken away. Barry Hearn responded to this by reiterating his original point asking Luke why he had left without asking the tournament director when he was clearly in the mix for a spot down the lower end of the table. Eventually, the PDPA tweeted saying that they had spoken to Luke and confirmed that the announcement had taken place and that the players should have been in attendance in case. They said that they could not be responsible for the whereabouts of every player at such an important point of an event. Woodhouse responded by saying that he now knew about the announcement and was obviously gutted and frustrated. Luke also accepted that what had happened, and Barry Hearn said there was a shame. Barry also wished Luke the best of luck for the future. Woodhouse took part in the following year's UK Open and has been in it every year since, as he has had a tour card. Before we take a look at what happened in the actual qualifier, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe, and make sure to turn on notifications so that you don't miss a new upload. It also really helps out the channel, so please make sure to. Thanks. The playoff went ahead with 7 of the 12 players. Jeff Smith got a bye through to the semi-finals where both winners will qualify. Adam Hunt beat Smith 6-4 to qualify, whilst George Killington beat Jim Walker 6-3. These winners then played a meaningless final, which was only used to determine the draw numbers, with one being 95 and one 96. In Minehead, Hunt went out in the first round, whilst Killington won 6-3 before losing 6-4 in the last 64. The event actually turned out to be one of the weirdest in PDC history, as fans were banned from entering due to a huge snowstorm, meaning that the major was played behind closed doors. Many players found it very hard to get to the event, and many withdrew. Some were maybe even glad that they missed the playoff. It was so cold in the multi-board room that Mickey Mansell played in a beanie and Mark Walsh played in a hoodie. Michael Rustovitz, who was involved in the playoff with Everts to get the bye, saw his luggage lost in transit, forcing him to borrow a set from Dave Chisnell. Despite this, he was still able to beat Simon Tate before getting a bye for himself and then losing to Corey Cadby. Rustovitz's opponent in the playoff, Ted Evers, ended up losing to Harry Ward in his first game. The UK Open qualifiers have not been used again since 2018, meaning that the day with the controversial playoffs was the final ever won. The PDC rule for splitting ties in order of merits is still similar, meaning we could see some more playoffs in the future. Let me know if you can think of another way of splitting the players in the comment section down below.